It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Hiram College head women's wrestling coach, Coach Chriisty Powell. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's wrestling?
It really didn't get started until I became a grad assistant at a college in Kansas, because before that, I really wasn't, super into coaching just because I knew how much work it was and, dedication and everything. But yeah, I coached with Team Georgia. And then after that, I was like, okay, this isn't bad. And then I became a grad assistant at a college in Kansas. So that really worked out.
What was that experience like for you as an athlete going to Missouri Valley College?
It really didn't hit me. I don't really remember like thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going out of state or anything like that. Not really until I feel like maybe like kind of towards my sophomore year, I was like, hey, like I'm a wrestler, like I need to step it up, like I can do so much better. I got all this time and training that I can do and I know what to do. So yeah, it just was it was kind of like I was just there. I was a student, still a student athlete, just like I've always been. But overall, I mean, I loved my experience at Missouri Valley.
As a collegiate athlete, what was that experience like putting on that singlet for them?
Um, Kind of same thing. I've been wrestling since I was 9, and I had to wear my own special singlet because I was the only girl on my team in high school. So I just had a different singlet than everyone else just because it was a boy singlet. Tried it once, had a parent luckily tell me like, no, don't wear it. So I've always, had a different singlet. So I think the only thing that was a little bit different when I went to Missouri Valley is, I matched my teammates. Like we were all wearing the same gear, same singlet, I mean. So that was probably the only thing that was kind of like, that kind of hit me like, wow, I'm on an all females team. Like we're all doing the same stuff. We're all working together and, getting to where we want in our life and our goal and just, and just in wrestling.
What was that transition like, as you said, wrestling on a males team in high school, but then going to college and wrestling on a females all team?
It was very different. I came in with the attitude that I thought I was going to do really well my freshman year in college just because I was the only girl. So I thought, wow, I wrestle boys. I'm going to have an advantage. No, it's nothing like that. Girls are, they're tough. They're flexible. We have different advantages than male wrestlers do. So there was a lot of things I had to get used to. But yeah, it was a huge difference, a good difference. But yeah, it took a little while to kind of get used to, the freestyle change, but also, uh, not so much being on a girls team because I played other sports in high school, but just kind of getting used to like, again, that we're all working together, getting, doing the same stuff and trying to get to, our goal that we want to. So.
How was your experience like competing on the U.S. Open freestyle world travel trial?
It was completely different also in terms of college level. Like it was the next level up. My first time, I really didn't know what was going on. I just kind of tried to go with the flow. I was cutting a little bit of weight. Did not have a partner with me, so my college coach had to go find someone, and she was a little bit bigger, a little bit better. So that was a little intimidating warming up with someone like that. But yeah, and then just the fact we were kind of having to go down stairs in a dark hallway and, only have 3 mats out with, over 1,000 people watching. So yeah, it was very terrifying. My first experience for sure. I thought I was prepared, but after kind of getting in there and rolling around, it was like, wow, this is a whole other level. So it kind of felt like my freshman year of college all over again, like that I have no idea what I'm doing. But after that first experience, I did a lot better and was a little bit more prepared, and I had some teammates come with me, so that I think that kind of relieved me a little bit as well.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like first getting into coaching as a grad assistant for St. Mary's?
So I pretty much applied to everywhere I could. Women's wrestling was still kind of growing. I think, when I was going into college, there was only like 20 maybe teams. So once I graduated, there was a little bit more, but still, very limited, unlike, today where there's over 60 plus schools plus programs. Plus the fact that a lot of colleges that opened up, they weren't able to have like a grad assistant or assistant coach. So yeah, I just tried to email a bunch of coaches to see if they had any positions open. A lot of them did not. And then finally, St. Mary, had a position open. So I was able to talk to him, and it was not difficult at all. I was pretty much ready to pack up. I love my parents, but after you have that independency, it's kind of like, all right, I need my own space again. So yeah, kissed him goodbye, packed up my stuff, and I just drove. And even though I had no idea really, what was going on as far as like my living situation, like I was just kind of ready to do it. I was ready for a new adventure. Like I said, I loved Missouri Valley all 4 years, and so it worked out great, and just nothing went wrong. And so I just was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
After that grad assistant time, what was that like transitioning into being a assistant coach for them?
Not much really changed from my grad assistant to assistant. I still had a lot of responsibilities. It was a brand new program, so it was really just myself and the head coach. So as far as, anything that changed, it really didn't. I was still, very much active with the women's program, and I did a lot of stuff on the men's side as well, just mainly paperwork and everything. But yeah, it really wasn't a hard transition, other than it happened during COVID. That was probably the only thing that was a little chaotic, going from not really sure what was going on to seeing if, they were even going to open up an assistant position. So, I went home for a little bit, spent some time with my family, just kind of trying to figure out like, okay, well, if this doesn't happen, like I need to jump on either another job somewhere else, or start going back into education, since that was what my degree was in.
What were some of the things that you were able to accomplish as an assistant coach for St. Mary's?
I helped build up the program. We pretty much, when I got hired, I think we had 4 girls. Once the season kind of started and ended, we ended up only with one athlete. And then bringing in 13 my second year. So I finally had like a team to actually do duels with. And so that was a little exciting. And then my third year, we had 20 something. So it just kind of kept growing. And then when I left St. Mary, we had about 27, I think, on the roster. So yeah, that was really exciting to see that growth and actually be part of a team, and, not just be me and one of my wrestlers. And so it was really exciting to kind of see that growth, like I said, and be able to do full duels and not only compete, but actually win.
For you as a coach, what was that transition like going from being assistant coach at St. Mary's to coming to Harlem College and becoming the head coach?
Luckily, the head coach at St. Mary gave me a lot of responsibilities. So I was already recruiting 24/7, doing a lot of paperwork, like I said, on the women's and the men's side. The only big difference was the rules and regulations. NAIA is completely different than NCAA. But luckily, like I said, the head coach at St. Mary gave me a lot of responsibilities. So I was not really struggling with anything at Hiram, other than just learning the rules and regulations and stuff. That was very interesting, going from, everyone says the Wild West to, actually structured stuff. So it was a little annoying at first. So, but just like I said, luckily I had a lot of people to back me up. So I was able to kind of figure it out very quickly. the head coach on the men's side, I probably bugged him a lot with questions and, just hypotheticals. So yeah, that was great having him right there in the corner. But other than that, it was luckily not too bad of a transition.
When getting to Hiram, what was that feeling like as a head coach stepping onto that mat for the first time?
It was very much an interesting and difficult move from Kansas to Ohio, just because, again, it was right after COVID. So, stuff was just chaotic. But once I got up there and got started, I loved it. I think the staff and faculty do so much for the students. And I think that, just as a whole, like we're all kind of there and trying to help and support each other. So yeah, once I got up there, the process was yeah, interesting, very difficult. But once I got up there, it was great, very relaxing. I mean, I stressed myself out anyways, but it's great having people, like I said, in the corner to kind of help you, not only move from a different state, but get into that head coaching position and just at a new school in general.
As a head coach, what was that first wrestling match look like for you?
So really just kind of figuring out the team. When I got started, there had already been a team. It was their first year, so a lot of fresh fresh meat. So pretty much just kind of letting them know, like, hey, these are the expectations, this is the schedule. So it was a little bit more difficult just because the head coach was both the men and women. So having that transition for them, I think, was a little odd at first. But once we kind of got rolling, like we just did what we could and just kept going and improving. So yeah, I mean, they definitely improved from last year, and that's what every coach, every sport wants to see, that there is growth happening, even if it's a little bit. So that first year, yeah, it was a little bit of growth, but we just kept adding on and building. And so that was you know perfect just for my first year. That's all I really could expect. But yeah, so it was great getting out there and just kind of going with it. My assistant coach at least was there beforehand, so she was amazing too. She did a lot of like supporting me both physically and emotionally. So I really love that about her. And yeah, she just kept kind of telling me, like, you're doing great, because it's very emotional sport anyways.
When you were the head coach for the first time, what was that like? As you said, the program was freshly new, so you were still transitioning into a new program.
Uh, with the experience I had at St. Mary, that helped me a lot. I pretty much just kind of used that. I definitely had to tweak a lot of things because, like I said, NAIA is completely different than NCAA. So just with like recruiting aspects, that took me that first year to kind of get used to, like, okay, well, I was able to use this as a recruiting tip, but now I can't use that anymore. So going from that positioning, like I said, it just took that really that whole year to kind of get used to it, and different lights and everything. But as far as the team, I had more girls than I did my first year at St. Mary, so that I think that kind of helped just a little bit. But at the same time, it was kind of like, man, I have a lot of athletes now that I have to focus on. So recruiting was a little bit harder versus, at St. Mary, I only had those two athletes. So I was able to, really focus on them, but also a lot on the recruiting side. So it's definitely a balance for sure.
What does a typical wrestling match look like for you as a head coach versus for your athletes?
So it kind of depends on if it's a home or away, but um, you know, we make sure, like, we get our weigh in. Have to remind them again and again, like, water first, then snack a little bit or eat your breakfast or anything. So it's just kind of a constant, like, hey, like, we got to still eat healthy. Like, I know you guys are happy and excited, but we got to drink a lot of water and just eat little bites at a time. But once they get some food in their belly, we get on the wrestling mat. We usually practice about or drill and warm up for about an hour. So we have a warm up that we do that's consistent. So that way, once they kind of get more, into and everything, they're able to do it themselves. Like we're just more there for support and just like, all right, next. So that way, like I said, it's just kind of a repetition and that they can just jump into the next thing and not be like, huh, what'd you say? So the warm up is, good. Like you have to get a good warm up. If your warm is bad, your day is probably not going to go super great. So we make sure that the warm up is as good as it can be. But after the warm up, yeah, they just, try to cool down a little bit, but still kind of get that sweat going. So that way they're just, more mentally prepared at that point than physically. So we, tournaments, typically most of them are already looking at their brackets anyways, but I always make sure that they know their bout numbers. So that way they're looking for their mat. And then from there, we just kind of start going at it. They, little by little, we try to help with that mental part of it, but physically, like they're just, they just got to keep preparing. So they still do a cool down after each match and then warm up again before the match. As far as like duels go, especially home duels, I know they have their own little ritual like they like to do. So I kind of just let them be them, and I'm more running around, freaking out, making sure everything's going. But duels, like, I think it's awesome. They have their own little ritual like they like to do and prepared and everything. So I kind of just step back and let them do that while I'm making sure, all the other teams have what they need and that we're ready to go to run a smooth, dual tournament or anything like that.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you built for Harlan women's wrestling?
So as far as like the cultural aspect and the diversity, something I'm still working on. I personally love recruiting out of state. I went out of state, so I guess I'm a little bit biased about it, but I love that our Ohio girls are there and their family is super supportive. So that's something that, as a coach for my first time actually this year, like have been able to kind of see the parent support, and we have amazing parent support, and I think that makes a big difference from just seeing it. But yeah, as far as everything else, like we have girls from kind of all over now, and like I said, I'm still kind of building on that, continuing to get Ohio girls interested in the program, but also, like I said, out of state athletes, because I think it is important to have a diverse team and that cultural aspect. I mean, I feel like that's part of the college experience. So I want to make sure that they have that, and and I think it's just kind of cool. You never know who you're going to meet and who you're going to stick with, but I think after college anyways, like you're always going to have those teammates, whether they were your best friend or not, they're going to be your teammates for the rest of your life.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
So we are actually starting a conference this year, which is exciting because there's still not a lot of conferences in, for NCAA at least. But so we will be part with Alfred State, Buffalo, and then Penn State. So that will be our first conference this year. So it's really exciting. But as far as competing in general, I mean, we try to compete with everybody, D1, D2, obviously D3, and then NAI as well. So we've been able to compete with a lot of D1 schools. We've gotten a lot of matches with them and kind of everyone else. So we try to stick close for the basic duels and everything, just because no one wants to drive 5 hours for one competition. But we'll travel out a little bit just to get different types of competition for sure.
What is that home match like when you have teams like Penn State coming to your home facility?
So I personally am that kind of person that like, tries to make it as perfect as possible. So I'm stressed out until pretty much it's over, but I like to have fun at the same time. I want to make sure, even though I'm stressing out, that I'm not giving that off to my wrestlers. So they, like I said, do a great job kind of doing their own thing, warming up really well. My assistant coach, make sure that they get on the mat when they need to, while again, I'm kind of focusing on, the other teams and everything. But luckily I have a lot of support, so I'm not having to really freak out about too much as far as, do we got the media stuff up and going? Is the video up and going? Our media people, John Alphys, like does a great job. He gets there super early, sets everything up. He's usually more like giving me stuff than vice versa. So we kind of get all that stuff like a week ahead. I send him like the lineups as best as possible and, names and stuff like that. So it's more just like, hey, how do you pronounce this kind of thing than anything. So my stress level is very low usually during the competitions at our home stuff. But yeah, I think we just try to compete with everybody. But at the same time, like as far as like the different schools competing with, we try to make it the same. Like, I try to tell them like, hey, I don't care if this is the number one seed, you're just going to wrestle her like you would anyone else.
How is that experience like getting to wrestle those other programs that might not be in our conference, like Dury, Southern Oregon, and even Colorado Messy?
Even though, you want to wrestle everyone the same, you want to wrestle your match, I definitely think there is some relief, not wrestling like the number one seed in your, that's going to be in your bracket for nationals. But it's just, it is nice to kind of get a very diverse type of competition. So I think they tend to do a little bit better, if not worse. It just kind of depends on, I think, who it is. Even so, we're definitely, with us being a young program, trying to get past that. Like, hey, doesn't matter who this is. But yeah, I think it's really cool. I think they get a really big, bolt of energy when they're wrestling someone like a D1 athlete or someone completely different that they never wrestled. So it's really interesting to kind of see their faces light up and everything, and just be really excited to be there and want to compete.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective women's wrestler athletes? And as a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes?
So I will, talk to anybody that's interested. I reach out to a lot of people, or at least I try to. But anyone that comes to me and talks, like, I'm definitely going to take the opportunity, because you just never know what kind of student athlete they are until you get to know them. But I, again, love recruiting out of state, so getting those out of state as well as in-state athletes is very important. But yeah, basically, with us being a D3 sport, academics, I look at academics, and I kind of just tell them up front, like, hey, this is where you're at, and this is what you're going to get, to make sure that they understand, what that entails with D3, division sports. But as far as what I look at, it's really at this point more about the, leadership kind of skills, and just are they sportsmanship. Once we kind of get our team building and growing, we'll start kind of looking at weights a little bit more. We're almost right there. I think next year I'm going to have to start really nitpicking on the weights and like, all right, I really need this weight class. But yeah, overall, the sportsmanship is really big to me. I don't want an athlete that's going to throw their headgear after every match. I feel like, that's something you really can't teach them. They either have it or don't. I think you can definitely build leadership skills, but as far as sportsmanship after the high school level, that's kind of a hard thing to build in such a short time. So I really enjoy having girls that just, might not have the skill level for freestyle yet because they've been doing folk style, but when they're just, active and want to be part of the team, part of the sport, like, I love that. And so I'll have anyone on my team that, brings that kind of level.
As a head coach, as you talked about that, what is that like coaching them and transitioning them from folk style to freestyle, where on the college level it is?
So we'll get a lot of girls that have little to no experience in freestyle after high school. And then we'll have kind of the opposite that did just as much as folk style, as freestyle. So it's always interesting. And no matter where they're at in terms of how long they've been doing it, it's just, again, high school wrestling is just a whole new level to college. So it's always kind of the same, but typically what I like to do is kind of have my upperclassmen kind of work with the freshmen just to kind of get them used to rolling around, especially because a lot of them, take that break if they're traveling back to college and everything. So just getting them back on the mat and everything, but it's still just, skill level that they have to learn whether they know it or not. You have to keep improving. Even if you're super good at like laces or guts, like, there's always ways to improve. So that's kind of the hard part, is just looking at where they're at right now and what we need to do before season starts, as far as doing one-on-ones and stuff like that. And just, as a whole, when we are practicing, focusing on those specific skills as a whole.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that singlet for the first time for Harlem versus seeing your seniors put it on for the last time?
Oh, so I will have my first senior this year, which is, very exciting. She's awesome. I love her. I'm trying to talk her into coming back and helping and everything. But this will actually be my first senior. My last school, even though I was there for 4 years, my senior did not graduate because she ended up switching her majors. So it was a different kind of like, ooh. So yeah, this will be really interesting. This will be my first time having a senior graduate and everything. So I'm gonna try to hold back the tears, but we'll see what happens. And I think that's just the goal, though. That's all those emotions come in because even though like you are the coach and you want them to wrestle, like your overall goal too is to get them to graduate. Get good grades and get them to graduate college. That's really the end goal here. So once it happens, yeah, a lot of emotions for sure. I feel like just come up and like, hey, like I was able to help you get to your goal and do that. And, and the fact that they allowed me to be in their corner and help them. So it's, but as far as my freshmen, it's just kind of like, all right, you're here. Let's see what you got. So it's definitely two different types of emotions, but it's an emotion nonetheless, seeing them put it on the first time and then the last competition and then just hoping that they enjoyed enough and, want to keep going and see them that next year. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, we'll see if I can hold back the tears with her. But I am very excited for her for sure.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing your athletes going to professional wrestling, whether it's on the national team for US or Canada or going into like WWE wrestling?
So it's I'm a competitive person anyways, just everything I just make into a competition. I like competition. I don't know any coach that doesn't, but I just make everything like as competition as possible, even goofy things that probably shouldn't be that competitive, but it's just part of me growing up with three brothers and getting into a tough sport like wrestling. So but as far as getting them to that next level, that's always cool. That's not necessarily the goal. Like I want them to have their goal in mind, whether it's just to get through college wrestling and graduate, or if it's to go to those Olympic style trials and anything like that. So it's exciting either way to me, but definitely that next level, just being there myself and wrestling at those kind of competitions, it's exciting to kind of see them get there and have that goal and have that dream and be able to even do it. I personally did not expect to do that myself. So when I have an athlete that kind of gets past that level, it's like, wow, like good for you. But yeah, as far as anything, it's just cool to see that they enjoyed it that much and want to keep competing because it's a lot. It's a lot on your body, it's a lot mentally. So it's awesome always to get past those itty little bitty things that a lot of people don't think are important, but it is. They don't have to do this, they choose to do it.
How's it like getting to see those athletes getting into coaching after their playing career?
Really exciting. I have a lot that will, even for my old program, they'll kind of text me and be like, "Hey, what was that drill called?" And ask me questions like that. So that definitely puts a smile on my face that they're going back. Even my athletes that haven't graduated yet, like they're going to their high school during either Christmas break or during the summer. So the fact that they're texting me and asking me questions, and then I get a lot of compliments, that's definitely puts a smile on my face, makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to. So it's exciting to like I said, having those high school coaches tell me like, hey, like she was awesome, she was doing great, and that they even enjoyed it. So that's kind of a cool outside thing to see as well.
What are some of your future plans for your program moving forward?
Definitely continue growing, not just in skill level, but numbers. hitting those, like I said, hitting those weight classes next year is going to be a big thing. I think we're in a really good place right now, only being a 3-time program, only my second season. So I'm really excited to kind of see where, we keep growing, because we definitely do. I think their first year they went from winning 0 duels to my first year winning 3 or 4, and then last year we won over a dozen. So it's just progress after progress, and same with just making it to the nationals and then improving. Luckily, with such a young team, like it's awesome too to see, like, okay, even though we're right here, like we're getting to that stage. So this year will definitely be exciting, bringing in these new athletes and having our returners, come in where they ended, seeing if they're going to be able to improve or keep it up, kind of thing.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college women's wrestling?
When I recruit or even just talk to an athlete in general, I just tell them, just try it, just do it. You know, it's exciting. It's a different kind of competition. I tell them, don't get me wrong, it's hard. Like, you're gonna have to put in work no matter what. Even if you're, just that kind of athlete that just wants to do it during your season, like, you're still gonna have to put in work. Like, it's tough getting up at 5 6 a.m., getting a workout in, and working out like 4 to 8 times a day, depending on, again, what level of athlete you are. But yeah, it's hard to tell them not to do it, because I kind of got forced to do it. So I try to tell them that, whether they believe it or not, that I almost didn't wrestle in college, and that I did, and now I am where I am, not playing it at all. So yeah, I just kind of tell them, like, just try it at least 1 year. I know a lot of people have to just push themselves. They don't have, parents or anyone in their corners. So it's really amazing when I see an athlete going as far as they are, and they're doing it by themselves. They're not having, again, a parent, say, hey, you should do this, or hey, I'm going to force you to do this. They're just doing it on their own. Versus when you do have the support, it's upsetting to see athletes just kind of give it up just because they're like, it's too tough. It's like, at least just try it. So yeah, it's just more just encouraging. But yeah, obviously there's a lot of athletes, not just in wrestling, but other sports, that don't even go to college to, do that sport. They either don't go to college, period, or if they do, they decide just to be a student. So
What advice would you give those athletes looking to get into professional wrestling and work like on AEW or WWE or even the national team route?
So again, it's a whole new level. So, I think you can kind of get away with like college wrestling if you're just trying to be that seasoned wrestler. You can probably get away with just doing, 3 hours of workout, a day. But that next level, like I said, you're gonna have to put in 6 to 8 hours a day. It's just about determination, but also the work ethic that you're willing to put in. Because even at the college level, only putting in 3 hours a day, like, you might make it through the season, but you're going to be lucky if you win matches. You're going to be lucky if you even get to go to regionals, let alone, qualify and go to nationals. So yeah, you just got to be willing to put in that work. You definitely have to have good time management. Still being a student, you're not just an athlete, you're also a student. Some students, unfortunately, have to work. They have to make money in order to continue being a college athlete. So yeah, it's just time management, and again, what you're willing to put in. But basically, what I tell my athletes is, hey, like, our practices are not enough. Like, they will get you through the season, but they're not enough. You have to come and do one-on-one. So we make sure that, our athletes who enjoy watching tape, we make it mandatory the first couple of months, but then after that, if they want to come watch tape, get that one-on-one, getting on the mat an extra 30 minutes a day always helps. And then just, as far as like lifting and stuff, understanding like, hey, during season, like, you got to maintain that lifting schedule as well.
What advice would you give those athletes looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
So luckily, with it still being a growing sport, we're hurting. Well, I guess this isn't lucky, but I always get emails from, whether it's high school coaches or college coaches that they need, coaches. It's just growing sport. I mean, it's going fast, but there's just not enough people, that are kind of getting to that next level. So yeah, I don't think there's really anything difficult in terms of, wanting to coach. Obviously, it depends on the level and everything. But like I said, if you're just someone that's hardworking and determined, like you can get a coaching position pretty easily as long as you're willing to put in the work and everything, just like you were as an athlete.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own women's wrestling program?
So depending on the level, whether it's high school or college, I mean, it's just, I think either way though, even at the high school level, like you have to do some sort of amount of recruiting, and encourage those students to just at least try it and get into it. But at the high school level, it's just very, you got that select group, but it's just very much like, just again, encouraging, young ladies to just try it and get into it. It stinks, I think, depending on, the district that you're in, and, what kind of support you have. But as a coach in general, like you have to be supportive, you have to be encouraging. You kind of have to find that line of, how hard you can push them. And that's always hard, getting, especially if it's a brand new program, and getting them to where you want to go. Like, you have to kind of pick and choose your battles almost. But yeah, being encouraging for sure. I think that's the big thing. A lot of ladies, just want to see that you're going to be in their corner. So that's yeah, how much time and effort you put into it, that's, your choice. But you have to put a lot of time and effort, like you can see that with a lot of programs that are doing really well. Like these coaches are pretty much living wrestling 24/7. So it's hard too, because you want to make sure that you're not overkilling yourself, and making sure that you're putting time into your own family and your own life.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the Harlem College women's wrestling program at?
So Instagram is a big one. We do have a Twitter page, but Instagram, Hiram W, starts at L, but WRESTL. So yeah, and same with our Twitter page as well. We are starting up a Facebook page, but in any of those two, you can always find me as well.
Thank you again, Coach Chriisty Powell, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Hiram College as the head women's wrestling coach.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon. You can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.